Welcome to Sith Talk, brought to you by Gattacara and Lanyard, bringing you news from Star Wars The Old Republic and beyond. Join us now as we explore the universe and take down the Republic in a galaxy not so far away. Alright everybody, and this is Sith Talk, of course. What you've just witnessed is our new our new intro done by Lanyard. So hope everybody liked that for our video watchers, and for those of you listening to the podcast, of course you heard our normal intro, along with of course my voice suddenly at the end as usual. Now what we've done for our video watchers is we've revamped the way the show works to ease the editing, and hopefully everybody's liking the new intro and the new look a little bit better than previously. This was actually something we worked on last week, but unfortunately there were some technical issues where the video didn't record properly and I couldn't upload it and a whole bunch of other horse shit. But nonetheless, we are back, and we have a slightly new format for you guys to enjoy. And this week, we told you last week we were going to be focusing predominantly on PvP, but we will be bringing the news as well as some of the notes from the most recent Q&A. And we're going to touch on patch notes a little bit, just because this is the PvP episode, so we want you guys to know what's going on in PvP as far as the patch notes. And if Lanyard found any others that he was interested in, of course we'll be making sure to bring that up. But for the most part, everything else is pretty good. Did want to go over a little bit of housekeeping. We've actually had a little bit larger influx. I went and did the numbers before the show. We had a total of 390 downloads this last week, and it's not just our last show. It's great to see everyone's picking up not only the first, the newest show, but of course going back and watching and or listening to the older shows via our Podomatic stream. And then, of course, we had another all of our 300 subscribers that have downloaded the newest episode. And then, to add fun to this, we had a total of 682 views on YouTube this week, bringing us to a whopping total of 1,335 for the week. And, of course, we're also up to 68 likes on Facebook, bringing us even closer to our goal of 100. And we want to thank you, everybody, for sharing, the Sith Talk program with everyone out there, all of your friends and gamers. God knows that Lanyard and I work diligently to bring the show to you. He's actually printed off everything he's going to be using, so if you like old school, he is set.
I got the old school.
But yeah. I mean, it's been an interesting week. I've talked to a few friends. I've listened to a few other podcasts, and what I've really seen is I've seen an insurgence of the what's going to happen to the game situation. And I worry because a lot of people think that this game will live or die based on one or two changes. And one of the things that Lanyard and I have talked about quite a bit actually is the fact that people look at a game, specifically an MMO, like they do every other game. They think that if the game somehow makes a change or does something wrong, it will become obscure. In the world of MMOs, it's not like a major mistake in Medal of Honor or Call of Duty or some of the mainstream games that people pick up for a couple months and then put down. MMOs are a living entity. World of Warcraft survives because of daily changes. Two of our biggest competitors on Podomatic are a 25 Minutes to Surrender, which is a League of Legends podcast, and then of course there's a Rift podcast, and those are our two biggest competitors on the gaming as far as the gaming stream goes on Podomatic, which is pretty cool. We actually unseated them this week, which made me extra happy. We took number 1 this week for 2 days and then dropped down to number 3. So we are in the top 3 consistently, and it's because of our viewers and our listeners that we have that. And I want to thank you guys.
Yep, that's great. And it is if we could stay in number 1, that'd be great. But I understand. I mean, you're going up against Rift and what is that? League of
Legends.
What?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. League of Legends. I wasn't sure that what that podcast was. I saw him and I didn't listen to it, but
Yeah,
I did listen to the Rift one.
I caught an episode of their podcast the other day just to find out what we were really up against, because a lot of them have really ubiquitous names. They don't really state what they're about. And Sith Talk, of
Yeah.
course, is very direct, which is what the intent was when we chose the name. And of course, we were playing Sith at the time, so of course that helps. But when I look back at everything and I go through the podcast that we were up against, I wanted to see what our competitors look like. When we first started the podcast, there were several SOTOR podcasts on Podomatic, and a lot of those have died to the sides. Even our hero, to somewhat to say, that's Kevin Johnson. Oh, Jesus Christ. Scott Johnson. Yeah.
Getting your people mixed up there,
Well,
buddy.
my hero, Kevin Smith. Penis.
there
There we
now
go.
You can get into the show.
But Scott Johnson has, produced a lot of really good podcasts for the gaming audience, and he's been around forever. And to that avail, he's at this point worried about the state of the game and looking at the idea of possibly dropping out and not doing the show anymore. He's even went so far as to say that he's only going to be doing 2 shows a month, which is unfortunate because he doesn't feel like the news is there. And that's that's a conversation you and I and some guildies have gotten into. Was there enough news to sustain the podcast? To which you and I both went, it depends on what you want to look at.
Right. I mean, if all we were doing was news, this would be a pretty damn dull podcast. I mean, most people that play the game, and I'm going to say most because I think I have ran into a few people that don't qualify for this statement, but most people can read.
Yeah.
And so the news that we're bringing to you is nothing that, spoiler alert, that you can't find on the internet. That's where we find it. Most of it's like, oh, we got a patch today. Cool, we got something to talk about. So yeah, if we bring you the news because that's what we want to discuss, it also brings up our discussions. That's what we discuss. We say, okay, well, we like this, and we like that, and then it brings up other conversations. If we were doing just straight news, it'd be boring.
Yeah, and I mean it's more than just the news. And yeah, I was talking to my wife, and I said, people watch the news every day, and it's not different. What we've tried to do on every show is not only bring you the patch notes that you could have read yourself, but let you know how our week was and tell you what our take on the game or the state of the game is. And to be honest, between this week and last week, me and Lanyard have actually changed a little bit on our view of the Fat Man server. So be warned, we will be talking a little shit about the Fat Man server. If you like the Fat Man server, and I won't apologize. We've run into some interesting stuff, and that'll be covered in our week, and then of course when we move on into the remainder of the podcast after the news. But
Yes.
speaking of our week, Lanyard, I heard you had a little difficulty getting in game this week. So did you get some game time this week?
I did.
Okay.
Actually, I did get a lot of game time this week. I didn't get any game time today.
Oh, okay, today.
Yeah, because I actually worked on not only on Atumnun, which I have to really thank that kind young lady named Amelia Pond to come help me get get my legacy. At 28, I got my legacy. So all you fools out there, you can't get your legacy till you're 50. Well, you're an idiot. Me and Amelia Pond both have. Amelia's got it at 30, or did you get it
31.
before? You got it at
Well,
it
was at 30 because I hit 31 while we were working on your mission.
Right. So and you had your legacy already.
Mm-hmm.
And I got my legacy at 28. Now, granted, I needed your help on the last 2 missions. Was it?
Yeah.
Okay. But that's what I'm saying is just you don't. Anyway, so I got legacy. I went with Night Cutter again, which is what I had on Port Nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
So that way I could just kind of keep that up because my Twitter account is Lanyard Night Cutter. So and my YouTube is Lanyard Night Cutter. Actually, not my YouTube, but Lanyard's. Anyway, So I worked on. So we got a Toon Nun up to 28. We got Legacy. I worked also went over to Port Nowhere and worked the Trooper just a little bit. And then I went. Oh, I jumped on with Spawn and did dailies with Lanyard. I actually got to work Lanyard this week, and did dailies, which is really fun. I had and a couple PvPs um, uh, over on the Port Nowhere server, and then just for shits and giggles, I went and jumped on my previous server before even Port Nowhere, which is Nad Sarcophagus, and worked on my uh, what is that, Sith Inquisitor.
Okay.
And I worked on Zuzu and got her bumped up. So yeah, I got a lot of good game time in. A little bit spread all over, a little love all over the place. But yeah. How about you?
Well, as you stated, Amelia got through her first chapter or her first prelude or whatever. I can't remember how they break it down, but she's
First chapter.
yeah,
Yeah.
she's 31 now, and obviously, based on some of the video our viewers are going to see, I've been doing a lot of PvP. Um, Jumped on Perpigelium, which is a great name to say, which is my fat man bounty hunter who just hit level 11, and she is now
Nice.
a power tech because I have Rakat, and if we do decide to go to Fat Man, I want it to have two different. I want it to keep Perpigelium, but I also want it to have Rakat, and I want it to. I like seeing the gameplay from the two different aspects. It's not quite as
Right.
easy as it was in WoW to switch between them, but not a huge issue for me overall. It was just nice to be able to see the difference in how the gameplay goes, and it is totally different PvPing as a power tech, especially a low B power tech without grapple. So,
Yeah, that's what Lanyard is the power tech.
so I'm basically doing the equivalent of spraying people with gonorrhea. I just run up and squirt flaming juice all over them and run behind them and punch them in the head. It's kind of awkward because I don't get into melee or close range characters very well, but it's
Right.
been fun so far. With that said, I also got on Rakat for a little bit because I do check in on Port Nowhere to see what the PvP and the community looks like over there. And a lot of people use the basery of the fleet. How's it going on fleet? Well, there's only X amount of people on fleet. You told me that as opposed to actually being on fleet, some of the big PvP groups, or that we were used to seeing hanging out by the mission vendor there, were actually out on the spaceport for Ilum.
Ilum. Yeah,
PvP.
it was really kind of weird. It's not really PvPing, but they were. It was GG and Bleed,
Hmm.
and which we normally always would see queued up sitting there at Fleet.
Right.
And recently when I was on there, I was like, wow, this is really bad because I don't even see Bleed. I might see one or two, just queuing up. And then when I went to go do my dailies, I jump on and you have to get off your ship and then land on the spaceport and then get on the shuttle and then go down. Completely useless run. But why can't we land our ship on the planet? Anyway, so I'm running from my ship to the shuttle, and I look over and there's like, I don't know, probably 15, 20 people, and they're all from GG and Bleed, and they were just doing like one of those dueling circles. They would duel each other and beat each other up and give each other tips and stuff. And I thought, oh well, there you guys are. So maybe the lag was really bad on Fleet with the 11 people that was there.
Well, and I've checked on our fleet, of course, on the Republic side on Fat Man, and normally there's anywhere from 80 to 250 was the max I saw recently, and that was pretty cool to see that many people. But the problem was if you ran past the areas where all these people were standing, your lag just became ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then when I went over to when I went over to Port Nowhere, of course, there was nobody. There
Right.
11 or 12 people up there, which was kind of disheartening. But then I was like, well, let me go pick up my PvP daily. And as soon as I clicked to queue, it immediately took me in. I
Yeah.
go, where the hell are these people? But there's
Right. They're
obviously
all over
enough.
the place.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean they've gotten to the point that now they're going and they're doing missions so that they get their money while they wait
Right.
to see what happens with transfers. Of
Right.
course, they're out on other areas, dueling against one another, which was
Yeah.
pretty cool. But Rakat got into a few missions, and I enjoyed spamming tracer missile and beating people up on Rakat. Not necessarily top honors in his battles, but it's okay. Then there was, like I said, PvPing on Perpigellum and getting hurt. I actually took her from 7, or I think it was, no, it was from 6 to 10, just so I could get the fleet to do a PvP match to have
Right.
a couple of
Right.
my characters in and be able to show PvP from the Imp side and the Republic side on the same server, which was
How is
actually
the,
really interesting.
how is the PvP on the imp side? Because we know how it is on the pub side. How is it on the imp side? Is it any better?
Oddly enough, it's no better or worse. It just depends on
Weird.
the group, you know,
Yeah.
because I see a lot of 50s on Fat Man talk about, oh man, it gets so boring winning every time. And when you're leveling up a character on the same server, you're going, where are these
What?
easy wins?
Yeah. Where are these wins? Right. I
But
was talking to somebody too. They're like, "Oh, we're just dominating," and I was like, "Wait a minute. This is the pub side. What are you talking about? We're dominating. I've been in the last 10, and we've just gotten owned." The guy's like, "Oh, we're, level 50, completely different." I was like, "Well, jeez, man. I
yeah,
didn't think it would be. I figured, but because I know that on Port Nowhere, it seemed to be pretty even. I mean, the battles got a little more brutal, but it was still about the same wins and losses."
right. But I mean, it was actually really good. I won a hut ball battle on both Amelia Pond against the Imps, and then I got on with Perpigelium and won a match against the Pubs. So I would say if the team is together and working to attain the victory, that overall it's still the same and it's still enjoyable on either side.
Yeah.
There are points where it got a little frustrating, but you know, I got my I got my mission done on Amelia Pond immediately. Like it was the first
Cool.
match in, instant win. Perpigelium, same deal. First match in, instant win. Rakat, however, had to work diligently to get his 6 wins, just to be able to, or 6 games. Yeah, 6 games played,
6 wins. Yeah.
just to get his daily done.
Yeah.
Because he had 1 win straight off the bat, and then it was a succession of losses. And with that being said, when I played on Rakat, the difference, because I logged on Nolani on the Republic side of the Port Nowhere server, and Fleet was barren. I
Mm.
was the only person on Fleet on the pub side for that server, as opposed to the 12 or 13 that were on Fleet on the Imperial
Man.
side. So that's where the real irritation comes in. Is there's the imbalance on the server.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah. Well, it's always been that way. It's always been over. It's always been Imperials. On Port Nowhere, it's always been that way. I mean, if you remember even when it was heavy, it was like all we were doing was hut ball,
yeah,
hut ball, because there was just not enough Republics on that server
yeah. Prior to, of course, when we finally
being
got
able to. Right.
to, be able to queue up against the same groups, which
Right.
then became even more frustrating because if you got get it's the pre-made and you only had a couple of guys from the good guild, you still got hammered.
Right. You were hoping like hell you got on the other team. Yeah.
But we did say that this week will be about predominantly about the PvP aspect of the game,
Right.
and we'll get into that in just a minute. I'm going to throw up the new newsreel, and then we're going to take a brief break. I know Lanyard said he wanted to get something to drink, and I actually need to grab something. So enjoy our new newsreel, and we'll be back in just a second. News. Look what you missed while you were sleeping. All right, I'm going to go take a leak.
Yeah, and sounds like you need to get something to drink.
Yeah.
Yeah, I might as well do that too. moment abilities no longer persist after players log out or transition areas. I don't know if that means that what that means. If I hit heroic moment and then transition out, the guy that I put heroic moment on, it goes away or it just shuts off. It seemed to be important enough for it to know. Flashpoint operations, general. Okay, so we got boss encounters no longer drop rewards until the entire encounter has been cleared of enemies. So, if I'm reading this right, it basically says you have to do a full clear on the dungeons before bosses drop rewards, which it kind of sucks for those people that like to just skip straight to the bosses and skip all the mobs. At first, I was sitting there thinking, "Yeah, that's cool. That's good. Make these," because I hated going on those groups that they would, try to skirt along the wall or
Yeah.
jump over some boxes and stuff, and they have to do that. But then I got to thinking that some of these operations in here are huge. So does that mean you have to go hunt down every mob, even if they're not even off the path?
Well,
I
I
don't know.
mean, in a lot of the flashpoints and a lot of the ops, I mean, I don't know about the ops per se because at 50, I pretty much PvP because most of the people we were expecting to run ops with were
Quit.
either, well, they didn't quit. They were just, we're waiting for the next one. We've already mastered the
Right.
last one, blah, blah, blah. And, those guys, we didn't really get a chance to run with them. So right now, until either the server transfers happen or I get high enough on the Fat Man server on Amelia Pond, I won't necessarily be able to do some of the operations.
Right.
But I'm guessing the way most of them are set up, from what I've seen from Kevin's playthroughs and some of the ones I've watched, some other people go through, most of the mobs are right in the way. I think the big issue is that they're skirting mobs where you can. They're trying to make sure that they don't take on mobs. There are some flashpoints where you have 2 or 3 alternative paths, so I don't think that's the issue. I think it's just saying, hey, you got to take down every boss instead of having a single loot drop, which is one of our concerns when we talked about LFG. Was the idea that if you didn't take down every boss or you couldn't take down a single boss, get a piece of loot you were waiting on, and then book the hell out of town.
Right. Maybe that's something that they're putting in there to preempt that.
Yeah, so
Because
that's my
they
thought.
know they can't prevent people from doing that.
Right.
So this is a way of preventing it. Maybe I don't
Well,
know.
not preventing, but curtailing the idea of skirting mobs, or for that matter, getting expecting to take down the first or second boss and then booking out of town,
Right.
so that the
We'll have to see
entire
how it
group
works.
sticks together for the full run.
Right.
And because loot drops based on, or well, okay,
It's
presumably,
it's better than other games.
right?
A specific game that
Yeah, the
throws
game that
down.
previously
Oh,
was
look.
called the game that shall not be named
Right.
by other
Right.
podcasts. But yeah,
But it's
in World of
it's better
Warcraft,
than that.
in World of
Right.
Warcraft, you had a per drop boss, and because the loot tables were readily available, you were able to say, okay, well, I just need to take down this guy. If he doesn't drop what I want, I'm getting the hell out of town. With this, that curtails the idea. The idea then becomes that you take down the entire encounter, and at the very end, you get a massive loot drop, kind of like taking down a Nixia, where
Well, I don't know. I don't know if that's necessarily the case. It might be that you just have to take down the mobs before, because I know that there's a lot of operations that have several bosses in it.
yeah,
So I mean, it because it's almost like a forced uh master looter,
right.
but
Well,
not a master looter, because master looters, when they go, oh, well, I'll just be your master looter, and then the master looter never works. I never trust
Well,
anybody else's
Master Loot is helpful dependent on whether or not you're actually gonna, ninja loot, or
Master loot
if you
was
want to
good for
have it
people that had
equalized.
DKP.
Yeah, well,
That was what Master Loot was for.
and that
Master
may
Loot
be
was
something that they're
for
working towards, is the idea of allowing people to put loot systems in the game themselves.
Yeah, that's
I'm not even gonna go next one,
yeah,
next one,
next one. Okay, moving on.
next dead body.
Let's see. So back to operations. Da, 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 da. Skipping down here, players can no longer bypass the lockout timer for some boss encounters. corrected an issue that could cause timed run buffs to end prematurely. Now, this is on operations, meaning you haven't done any operations. I'm mentioning it only because some of our listeners probably have.
Right.
Right. And they would know what that is. It's been fixed, so even when we get into operations, we won't know that it was broken.
Well, timed runs were achievement related. A lot of titles were given out based on the idea of destroying a entire encounter within a certain amount of time. A few patches ago, they announced that they were offering a different style of run, a very reminiscent to what we do in flashpoints, where we're trying to get done with the run as fast as possible. With this, a timed run would basically allow you to get it done before the timer was up, and then would award you an additional time frame. So with the idea of the timed run ending too soon, that would actually have cheated people who were trying to get done with an operation quickly.
Right.
So now those people who were doing the hardcore modes and trying to unlock all the extras and special names that they wouldn't have otherwise had a chance to get, now have a chance to get it correctly.
Cool. Got it.
All right, what else you got for me?
Real quick here, Eternity Vaults corrected an issue that could prevent players from receiving mission credit upon defeating SOA. An explosive conflict after defeating Firebrand and Stormcaller. Players now collect rewards from Firebrand Battle Tank rather than a loot chest. So I guess they get it from the battle tank rather than going to a loot chest.
So that would be getting it from the boss as opposed to going, hey, he's dead. Now where's the chest?
Now where's the chest? Right. Which it's and then that would bring us to the PvP.
Yes.
They have a one PvP there before the missions. So.
Well, there's the PvP as far as the war zones go. It says under general, they corrected a server side issue that could prevent Warzone matches from being created. I'm not entirely sure what that is supposed to mean. There's no addendum to that, but presumably it would say that there's not enough people to start a Warzone, regardless of how many people were or were not in queue for it at that time. And then there's war zones now in early if the team populations become too imbalanced, which means those people who cry about, oh, well, there's 6 of us and there's 8 of you, there's no chance of us winning because they haven't figured out strategy now. The people who leave can now just say, well, fuck it, and be able to actually move into the next war zone as opposed to being stuck trying to battle, 5 versus 8 or whatever, groups being made up are. And I understand this because when we're playing on Port Nowhere, occasionally there is a situation where you'll get 5 versus 8, and there seems to be no possible way to win. Of course, appropriate gameplay or strategy can actually work to cause a win, but I won't argue against the people who just prefer to QQ. And for those of you who don't know what QQ is, it's just crying like a bitch. Under Novera Coast, they fixed an issue that would allow players to become stuck on the bunker central console, which I've never gotten stuck on the console, but unlike most people, I don't try to put myself into a corner just so I can click on a console, which is a big thing I've seen in a lot of Novera Coast. And since that patch went in, you can't actually stand on the console because one of the techniques, excuse me, I'm not going to say techniques. Let me make sure I appeal to those who are retarded. The people who cry, they can't stand on the console. And that was a big thing. When you got into there, you would jump into the corner as far as you could, so you would be more or less untargetable inside, so that you could cap the bunker without getting hit by any damage, which was a big issue. And of course, they addressed that again in the idea of saying that players can no longer become untargetable by entering the bunkers while capturing bases, which once again falls into the I hid in a corner and I got to cap it, ooh, lucky me. Fuckers.
Yeah. Well, not no more.
Yeah.
Bitch.
And I mean, there are certain situations where you are untargetable, and I'm sure there's other exploits that people have found. But
Sure.
I actually tried after the patch to try to stand on the console or get really close to the corners like I was used to being able to do. And now you can't stand on the console at all. You can jump all you want and you're still screwed. You're still not getting anywhere. So good luck, guys. It's Novera Coast.
Yep.
Die because your team doesn't support you. And then under the UI fixes, it said corrected an issue that could cause the main UI quick bar to overlap with player portraits, which I haven't had an issue with. I don't know if you have.
No, not really, because I don't put my bar over the top of my. I mean, why would that be a problem? I mean, what kind of moron says, "Hey, I like to have my buttons over my face"? Oh, my buttons are over my face.
And then
I'll
let's
see
see
what the hell that problem was.
other new UI fixes. Players can no longer assign key bindings to toggle music off. The example, of course, being Control M. The ambient sounds ambient sounds, which was Control A. These can still be adjusted using the sliders in the preferences window, and all sounds can be toggled using Control S, which really actually upsets me because
Really?
it does and it doesn't. Okay, when I use Ventrilo, I use Control as my button because it pretty much is used for next to nothing as far as I'm concerned. And when I use Alt, if I'm playing a Steam-based game, Alt and Tab pulls up my chat for the fucking Steam. So I use Control, and I steer my character with WASD. So when I hit Control and I say something, I turn my sound off because I'm backing up. I normally just turn all of my sound off, and it makes it more enjoyable. But apparently now I'm not allowed to.
Well, which was great with like games like WoW or
Yeah.
Rift or something like that, where there wasn't. I mean, you could turn a sound on if you wanted to hear the blasting and the blah, 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 or the music.
Well, see,
But
WoW
then you
didn't
can
have
turn
the
it off and you
awesomeness.
can listen to you can turn it off and listen to Rolling Stones or an audiobook or something. But
Yeah.
this one, it's like there's you've got the cutscenes, and you really want to listen to the cutscenes. So you have to on off, and then that's like, you don't know how many times I've sat there and I'll be like in the middle of a cutscene, and somebody will get in vent, and I'm like,
Could you
It's
just
great.
shut up?
yes, hi, how you doing? Blah 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 blah. Okay, I'm in a cutscene. All right. Play again.
Yeah.
So 1, 2. So hey, Lanny, what's up? Back out, because it's like, so sometimes I'll put it on vent, put vent on mute, and then it'll be like several hours of silence, and then oh crap.
I muted vent. Whoops.
Oops.
Yeah. So then let's see. Moving on in UI, it says players can now purchase both cargo hold expansions back to back if eligible to do so. Which means if you have enough cash, you can open up all of your cargo holds. And I'll be honest, unless you're a farmer or you're making tons of stuff for your guildies, really, your
It's a
cargo
pretty big
hold.
bank.
Yeah, well, I mean, and it ends up being tab by tab as opposed to the bags, which are, a single line slot, which I didn't really like, but
I don't like that either.
yeah.
I mean, 5,000 for the first, and then like what, 20 for the next. I was like,
the prices for
that's-
bag
that's
slots
for
seem
five-
ridiculous.
5 spots? You gotta be kidding me.
Well, the prices for bag slots are a little odd, based on cargo hold prices, because you're
Yeah, but the
almost
thing
paying the
is-
same price.
Right, but the thing
Ooh,
is
beer's kicking back.
considering the stack goes up to 99, unlike 20 or 10 or 5 or some random stupid number. Well, these can only stack 4. These can only stack whatever. They're 99 is what which I thought was kind of funny too, because it's not like 100, but they couldn't put that extra 1 in there. But so that's kind of cool. I mean, you can actually carry quite a bit of shit.
Yeah. And I mean, if you're a farmer and you're an auction houser, then having a large cargo hold is helpful. Being
Lanyard
able
has
to pick them up very quickly is going to be great. I know Nagajalokia, which was my sorcerer on, is my sorcerer on Port Nowhere, has a full bank slot, so I can definitely understand that idea.
Yeah. Lanny's got 2 bank slots, and they're both full. But he's also the guy. He's the guy that gets all the farming gear. So everybody sends him all the metals, sends him all the shit, and he takes and he auctions it, and
make stuff. So he's the collector, so to speak. I should have made, but I did make a bank. I know, believe it or not, I made a bank on this. But well, it's mostly to save money.
Right.
But
Right.
So go ahead.
And then
Well,
other UI fixes, it says players who leave a full operations group will no longer appear in the UI to be in a regular group with some members of the operations group. So basically, in that case, it's someone leaves your group and their character frame still shows up in your UI. Which, if you guys are wondering what I'm talking about, I have an operations UI set up on my for when I PvP. So if you'll notice there in the side there, for those of you who are viewing the podcast as opposed to listening to it, and if you do listen to it, feel free to go and view it because that makes me even happier. We've got it's over on the side here. You'll notice that there's a lot of people there. Well, the presumable issue in the operations was that someone would drop out and the next person would join in and your frame wouldn't update. That would screw your healers because they wouldn't see that guy was dying, and well, he'd be fucked. And then, of course, we've got sending companions on crew skill missions or accepting mission rewards now prevents the player from being AFK or treated as AFK. So those of you who were AFKing in PvP and sending your people on short missions, congratulations. You have a reward, you fuckers. Continue to go AFK on a base we've captured. No one's attacking. Good job.
Come on, I used to sit there like on Novara Coast when you'd catch that one base, and they always would concentrate on south and east, and I'm like guarding. So I'm making shit.
But the thing is, like a lot of people, and they'll do it, and you'll see it mostly in Alderaan War. Is there's always a guy who's over on either snow or grass, and one or the either based on
Making
the
snow
opposing
angels.
groups, right? The opposing group's technique. If they're focusing on either snow or mid, what you'll end up seeing is one guy who just sits there with a thumb up his ass, and presumably people were just sending their people on the short 5-minute mission so that they wouldn't get close enough to logging out. And I'm sure there were people juicing that one. So, fuck you, retards.
It's like, well, when you got, that's your job. I'm guarding this base.
You're not
Guarding.
guarding.
Damn well, as soon as that fucker says, "All right, well, I've been here for a couple minutes. I'm gonna go check out and help. I'm gonna help them out in the grass." So I go run under the tunnel, and you're not halfway through the tunnel. There's that asshole sniper that's been sitting over there, watching you. He's doing the incoming. So he goes, "Oh, well, that fucker just left." Goes over there and takes snow, and then you're like, then who's getting yelled at?
Yeah.
What the fuck? Yeah. Why did we lose snow?
Well, I will admit, occasionally I am guilty of somewhat AFKing. The other night I was in the Novara Coast. I walked out of the spawn area so I wouldn't get kicked out of the game. But my pizza was done in the oven. It wasn't.
Pizza's done.
Well, I was hungry. Fuck you. I'm fat and I'm a gamer. But I ran and got my pizza, and it was like a 2-minute run. And they're like, "Kick Amelia Pond, she's getting pizza." And I'm like, you fuckers.
Why'd you tell them the pizza?
Well, I told them I had to go get pizza.
Be right back getting pizza.
Uh,
Oh, okay.
So, continuing on for the last couple of notes here on the UI, we've got when a companion is unavailable due to the player's class story, other companion characters will no longer become unavailable for the crew skill window. So presumably if you didn't have someone out or someone was involved in that crew skill so you could not send them away, now you can still use the remainder of your companions for those of you who are grinding your crew skills. So that's a major plus for you. There was one, and I'm never going to understand the idea of miscellaneous bug fixes, but there was another patch another patch item for miscellaneous bugs. Republic players are now transported to their ships when selecting the option of space station shuttle on Basalvis. I don't know whose ship they were being put on.
Well, it's either that or they weren't able to. They had to go to the orbital station, then go from the orbital station to their ship. I think it's funny that it's put under miscellaneous as like, and oh, by the way,
there's this minor issue that we weren't letting the Republic go straight from the thing to the ship on this certain planet. It's not important, but you skipped over one, man. This is the best one.
What's that?
The level 50 PvP missions now grant 100 Warzone combinations for daily missions and 300 Warzone combinations for weekly missions.
Okay.
I mean, you can get your weekly and your daily, and bam, you've got an earpiece.
Okay. Well. Okay. I will agree with that's a slight overstep on my point.
Okay.
But the daily is bullshit. Okay.
What do you mean the daily?
It was
bullshit?
99 before. What the fuck? They gave you one more, and you're calling that a win? You fucking kidding me?
Okay, that's cool.
And then the idea of 300.
That means they figured out what comes after 99. Because if you look at our bags, and when they stack shit, it goes to 99, and they didn't know what. That's as far as the guy, the guy that was in control of numbers. That's as far as he could count. So you should be happy now that they've figured out it's 100 after 99. Figured out how to make that one go.
Don't we go to 99 and reset? But
yeah, that's right. It goes back to 00, right? That's what it was on my calculator.
Oh shit! But I mean, the idea that the weekly only gave 99 was kind of trite to begin with. And now is that 99 Warzone, or is that 100 Warzone, or is that 100 ranked? Because that's the joke. Is everything is you do your daily, you get 99 ranked and 99 Warzone, and then the other one, of course, is you do your weekly and you get 99 ranked and 99 Warzone.
The dailies are 100.
Warzone and ranked, or just Warzone?
It doesn't say anything about rank. It just says 100 Warzone combinations for daily.
Okay.
And 300 for the weekly.
So then more than likely we're talking Warzone combinations, at which case, for our 50 buddies, that's still a big, because I want, getting the ranked gear doesn't necessarily make you awesome. No. It definitely does increase your stats overall, and depending on whether or not you're one of those people who are keeping your initial 50 PvP gear and then putting the stats from your War Hero gear into it, that's awesome. But if it's just straight Warzone gear, then I guess you can roll over your Warzones to ranked Warzone or the War Hero items. I don't know, man. That it still kind of sounds funky to me. So I guess at this point we'll scoot on into the Q&A. Lanyard, did you have any preferenced items that you want to touch on?
I've got a couple highlighted on my paperwork, but there was a couple that I wanted to answer as well too. I don't think Daniel Erickson did a very good job of answering. Which for those people that don't know and don't read the Q&A, Daniel Erickson is the lead game designer, and there's this one question that DeZeger had asked, and it says, with the changes to the social gear adaptive and augmentable, and thus more wait a minute, hold on, let me read this again. With the changes to make social gear adaptive and augmentable and thus more desirable, are there any plans to revise the social points system? For example, making it per legacy rather than per character, and or expanding options for social point gathering at endgame that doesn't involve endless S-less and Black Talon runs. Now, I want to read this last part again. DeZeger believes that the only way to make social points is to do endless S-less and Black Talon runs. Daniel says, yes, the social point system will be getting a major revamp in the future, and many of our systems will be going legacy-wide, though whether social is one of them is still under discussion. In the meantime, Game Update 1.3 will bring social points to all Flashpoint operation rosters, meaning far more social points for just being social and playing with friends. My ad to Daniels is, hey, DeZeger, do you know you can get social points by doing missions with friends? Every time you do a conversation with a buddy, as long as it's not a class quest, you get social points for that. The more people you have in your group, the more social points you get. So if you have 4 people in your group, which is the max without companions, and you pick an answer and you don't win the roll for the answer, you get 4. 1 for each person. If you win, you get 8. 2 for each person. So, if you do missions and you run around on planet with 4 other buddies and you're doing the same missions, you're getting the same experience points, you're getting stuff done faster, you're with 4 buddies, and every time you do a conversation, you get 4 or 8 social points for each answer you do. Don't have to do back-to-back S-less or black tie.
Well, maybe that's the one he likes, and
Or
as I've
maybe he's just
discussed,
a moron and he thinks the only way you can do groups is to do it with that.
well,
I mean,
the big thing for me is with social points, and I like the idea of it being legacy wide because I don't necessarily
Yeah.
play on a single player, and
Yeah,
with a lot
that
of the gear, either you have to make it with the social gear specifically. If you buy it on a character, you can't then send it to somebody else in your legacy.
yeah, that's what I don't like. I don't like the bind. I don't like the fact that if it's legacy, if you've made legacy, bind on pickup should be bind on legacy, especially if it's like a crit, an epic, or what do they call it? What do they call an epics in this game?
Those are prototypes.
Prototypes?
Yeah.
If it's a prototype or if it's a modifiable, one of the orange ones, that should be bind to legacy.
Right.
I'm not.
Well,
I'm not gonna say it should be. It would be nice if it was. If you don't make it that way, okay.
Here's my big thing: is as most people know, I tend to gravitate towards a single character at a time. I don't go across my entire legacy. I will take a few characters. The ones in Datakar's legacy are currently on the Fat Man server, and I would like to see some of their social points because I'm not a huge person as far as grouping. I don't get into a lot of runs with a lot of people. Most of my social points on Amelia are because I've grouped with you on your consular, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
But I can understand the idea that it would be legacy wide, so that the character you're playing with, per se, like you suggest, as far as doing missions and doing some of the other spots in the game and doing flashpoints, other than Esselis and Black Talon, if he was playing on his lobies, if he was accruing social points at that point, then it becomes more relevant to him because if it's legacy wide, then this social points program that they've thought up on their own then becomes immediately relevant to everyone in his legacy,
Right.
as opposed to
Well,
being specific to that one character, which honestly
Right.
is kind of a bitch.
And if you think about it, if you're running on 1 or 2 or 3 characters, you are being social, not just because I don't run with Tacoma. It doesn't mean that I'm
Right.
not being social. It just means that I haven't been social with that character because I haven't played on it. Now the other thing, would that mean that they'd have another damn bar across the bottom? You'd have your
Well,
and
I
your
wouldn't mind actually, as
social, and
asinine
the
as
next
it
thing
is.
the next thing they would ask for is to make sure you have your PvP rank too, so you know P rank.
Well, the PvP rank, I don't see a need to have. It's not going to be something that should be legacy wide. I think that should be per character. Though it really doesn't a lot for anything more at this point, again, with the exception of title. The idea that you're level 10 who just started PvPing has War Hero seems redundant. There's no real work there.
You're just pissed because you didn't get your title.
Well, Naga still hasn't gotten Centurion, so good fucking luck to me. But that's a ticket for another day. All right, what else you got for me, Lanyard?
One more I got here that I also wanted to put an answer to. Just below that one, I think that was the only one. Yeah, just below that that one is Iraqaletis, some disease name. Currently, crafting missions have a chance to drop schematics from opposite faction. Now, this is what I love. This is great. I can't believe people haven't figured this out. Currently, crafting missions have a chance to drop schematics from the opposite faction. Given the uselessness of these schematics for the crafting player's faction, combined with the cumbersome and intentionally difficult means of trading with the opposite faction that's not being used, what is the justification for this, and are there any plans in the future to change this? Now,
I don't even need this guy's answer because I can answer this moron Iraq-a-lacopus.
Okay. First off, uselessness I'll answer second. But first I want to answer the combined with the cumbersome and intentionally difficult means of trading with the opposite faction. First off, you've got the same thing that most games have. They have the cross-faction GT, the cross-faction auction house. Granted, it's just like every other game's neutral auction house. It's virtually empty, okay?
Right.
And in some cases, it is completely empty. But that is not cumbersome.
All you have to do is go to the planet that is, I think there's one on Tatooine that I know of, there's one on Nar Shaddaa that I know of. If it's a planet that both classes can be on at the same time, there is a neutral auction house. Look for it.
Yeah, the cross faction auction houses are there, and you know the idea that these were cumbersome. You know, you and I talked about it when we actually got to 50 and they unlocked the full legacy, or what they've exposed us to as full legacy. We realized that suddenly there was a grand use for all this shit. Like, I couldn't figure out why my arms tech guy could make, you know, blaster rifles that I couldn't use, or blaster cannons, and you can't fucking use them. Well, you and I talked about it, and here when I made Nolani and we made our troopers on the Republic side on Port Nowhere, you immediately went and crafted everything you possibly could that would only be able to be used by a trooper, and sent it to our characters because they were cross faction.
Cross faction, as long as they're within your legacy, you can mail shit to your other factions. So in other words, you only need one armor mech, you only need one synth weaver, you only need one artifice, because you can make shit for both factions as long as you have legacy.
Although, of course, the argument then becomes you have to have 2 brain cells, because apparently some people don't.
Because this Iraq-a-lacopus doesn't have it. That was my answer. I was like, you fucking moron.
Yeah.
Also, with legacy, you can now just skill one armor tech or synth weaver and mail all your shit to your different tunes.
Right. And as long as they're in your legacy, they can receive mail from gear. They can receive cash from your other side.
Yeah. You can mail cash if you can mail it.
Yeah.
And you have legacy, you can mail it. You fucking moron. That's like and now granted, when I first got this, when I first started getting Jedi stuff, I'm like, I can't use this Jedi shit. I held on to it because I figured, well, maybe someday it'll go in the auction house or something. I don't know. There's got to be a reason that we're getting this stuff. And then when we first hit legacy, I was like, hey, I wonder if I can mail this stuff. And I mailed. The first thing I did was I mailed the schematic to it. And I was like, cool, I can get the schematic to mail. And I was like, wait a minute. I could just make it on lanyard and
and that's
the answer, Iraq-a-tickatickatis. Don't bother with Daniel and his stupid answer, which is basically answering they are an intended part of the system and are there to cause cross-faction interaction, which will soon be much easier as we finish out the last few steps of the huts formally take over. Oh, what?
They're using the idea. They're using the idea of the GTN being controlled by the Hutts, so it becomes completely cross-faction. Which
the goblins taking care of the auction house.
Yeah, and I mean the idea is that it opens up the auction house, which I do and I don't like. I like the idea of having, you know, one group being able to access the auction house. At this point, it does eliminate the idea of some of the things we had in WoW, where things that were Republic side become at a premium to then sell on the neutral auction house.
Yeah. White kittens.
Yeah, and if you end up making a lot of money and being able to run to be able to get the items from cross faction easier, then I guess that helps. But I like the idea that some things are truly exclusive. And if you're not willing to re-roll, then don't re-roll in regards to the schematics or the gear made from the schematics.
Well, that's just it. I don't know why. Like Daniel's saying, he's like, "Oh, we're planning on making it easier." For who? For lobies that don't want to get legacy?
For the people who don't.
Legacy, everything opens up.
Well, for the people who don't re-roll, I think is the big argument, because there are some people who only want to play Republic, and there are some that only want to play Imperial, and that is okay. What you guys play is completely up to you. I could give a fuck less.
Yeah.
I play both sides, and
but, you know, whatever.
Well, well,
I
you and I have gotten to the point that we're playing every class and we're enjoying every storyline. And there are
right.
some people who are like, "Well, I only got this game to play a bounty hunter. That's all I'm ever going to play, and I'm going to be a bounty hunter for until they shut down
Bounty
the
hunters for
servers."
life.
Yeah,
Right, right.
exactly. In which case,
And
enjoy your
which means
herpes.
they usually play until end game, and then they're out of there because they don't want to do anything else.
Yeah. Let's see. There were a few small items in the Q&A that were of some interest to me. Basically, because we're debating on what server to go to. We've invested a lot of money for the bank on Port Nobody, and El Karaz says, "Well, what will you be doing to keep guilds and server communities together once the server transfers are implemented?" Mr. Gonzalez, the online community manager, says once server transfers are implemented, we will reevaluate our server group forums and will make changes that are necessary. We also have community coordinator Eric, whatever the hell his last name is, as a liaison to guilds, and he has a lot of good ideas that on how to work with them. Finally, we are going to begin highlight server community events and community blog section. And what the fuck do I care? A lot of people say the argument that at this point is, what are you going to do with your guilds? What are you going to do with your communities? Because as we've stated before, whether it's Port Nowhere, it's Fat Man, it's Daruga's Palace, the Pleasure Barge, whatever. What are you going to do to keep the community in the game? What are you going to be able to keep communications up with communities and guilds?
Right.
And the sad thing is, there's really not a good answer to it,
No, it's a terrible answer. I mean, the guy doesn't even. It's like the guy's. El Caras is asking, hey, what do you? I mean, he does touch on server communities, but he's talking about in game.
Yeah.
What are you doing about keeping guilds in game together? What do you talk about keeping server communities in game together? And Mr. Gonzalez talks about forums. The social networks outside of game.
Yeah.
It's a terrible fucking answer. It's like, who? You guys proofread these things? I mean, now granted, these questions and answers are a hell of a lot better than last week's, but
and they do softball a lot of the answers.
no, and I understand that because they don't want to. They're trying to be Q&A for the people, and then in fact, if the very I don't have it printed out, but I remember the Q&A first said, hey, listen, we prefer to have questions about what's going on in game right now.
Right.
We can't really answer stuff about what's coming out in the future because it might change. We don't really know. Blah, 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 blah. So a lot of our answers are going to be pretty vague or soon. But that's what people want to know. They don't in-game stuff. They have answered, but they can answer pretty good. But this is a terrible answer.
And then because the big question becomes, once server changes are implemented and server transfers are implemented, what are they going to do if the guild leader decides, hey, I'm going to book it over to server XYZ, or Hotspot as we used as last week's. Well, and that's the problem. If you've put 500,000 credits or 1 million credits into unlocking your extra guild tabs, you've then screwed yourself when you get to the next one because you got to start from scratch. And if there's no one with a 50 in money on that side to get it going, you're fucked.
Which is why Rift made it smart by being able to transfer your fucking guild.
And
presumably
they will work on that because we've got a long road till 1.3. Estimates at this point have it put somewhere between July and August.
End of July.
It hasn't hit the PTS yet, which is what I'm waiting for.
Yeah.
And Nagashalokia made it onto the PTS because they've added a second character slot on that particular thing. So, tits for us.
There too. Yay.
But I guess I don't know. I'm gonna touch this last one and then we'll move on to the genuine PvP.
Yeah, it's probably a good idea.
So Ash here, and I'm not gonna say his whole name. I'm gonna have the community link in our show notes. But Ash here says there are quite a few threads on wanting open world PvP and a lot of good ideas on open world PvP content. My question is, thank you for getting to it, are there any plans to implement something that would encourage world PvP, such as faction points for it says factional items or planetary control, maybe even rewards or commendations for open world kills. Before I go to the devs answer, I'm gonna say that would be fucking retarded, because that would
so?
I think with my current experiences in on Fat Man, if they make it level appropriate, then yes, that will work. There was a great section in World of Warcraft where there was a central city that you could control, and it would give you a buff that would basically allow you to get through your missions faster, receive faster rewards.
Wintergrass.
No, not Wintergrass. In BC. I can't remember the planet off the top of my head, which is fine because we're not a World of Warcraft podcast. But there was one central area where you would go and you would attack the town and basically take it over, and that was their secondary world PvP. Hala, right.
That was over there in
That was just like controlling the points when you first got there in the starter zone for Burning Crusade. If you got all those, you've got a bump in XP and you got a bump in credits earned while you were in there, which was the good part, and that made me happy. If they had something to that nature for that level, then that would be fine. What I'm worried about is they misimplement it, and then it becomes, oh, I killed the same level 25 and I'm a 50.
That's gonna,
It's I like world PvP as a whole, regardless of gankage.
Ganking is gonna. Okay, this is my theory. Ganking is gonna happen.
Yeah.
And I don't mind ganking. I gank sometimes. I'll see some low level and I go pop, and then. But what I absolutely hate, and all our listeners, I want you to pass this on, because I really think this is just, it pisses me off beyond reason. Okay, is camping. Camping is the lowest of low for PvP. I mean, if you're a camper, you're a diaper smeller. I mean, you fucking suck, okay? Because all you do is make it terrible. You make it horrible for the other person, and I know what these fucking campers are doing. They're over there, they're level 50 or 40 or whatever. They're 20 fucking levels above the other person, okay? The reason why they're camping is because they ain't worth a shit in real PvP. They're not going to go on their own planet because they know they couldn't fucking do it themselves. But what they're doing is they're out there camping, and meanwhile, on the other side of the screen, they're jerking off to their mama. Okay? I hate campers. Campers are childish little pricks. Okay, now if you're going along and you gank somebody, and then you go on and you take off down the planet or whatever, and you move on, and you happen to see him again 20 minutes later, that's up to you, gank him or not, if you're in a different zone or whatever. But if you just sit there in the same area because you know damn well he's going to come back, he's trying to fucking do his mission, and you fucking keep killing him, you're a prick. You're a useless fucking prick, okay? Or, now I don't mind war parties. War parties are kind of fun. You get together with all your guys and you ride through and you just demolish everything. Yeah. It's annoying to the other person, but as long as you do it proper. Here's the proper way to fucking gank somebody. You gank them, okay? That's it. You don't teabag and that's childish shit. You gank him, and then if you happen to be in the same area when he reses, you know what? You wave to him. You say because on this game you can actually you can talk to your other faction. You say, "Hey man, good job," or or
fuck off.
Yeah, he's gonna piss the fuck off, but you don't go fucking kill him. If you happen to see him within the next 5-10 minutes, just ignore his ass. Now, if he tries to attack you, he's an idiot and he's gonna die. But come on.
Deep breaths, Lanyard. I know you had a little gankage issue where that 50 was farming you earlier this week, but...
Oh, I was on Tatooine. First I'm on Tatooine, I can't get fucking 5 feet down the road. It's bad enough I'm on Tatooine 3 levels below me. I don't need a ganker killing me, okay? I got womp rats attacking my ass that I can't kill. But then when I got to Alderaan, it was the same thing. I was like, oh, this is so fucking annoying. But at least in Alderaan, it was at first it pissed me off because it was the same guy, and as soon as I res, he'd kill me. As soon as he'd kill me. And I'd be like, fucking camper over here, and
And what pisses me off is, well, you're letting me safety can't.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do a fucking mission. It's not like I can just go somewhere else and do it. I gotta be here. This is where I'm at. And this faggot, but excuse me, I'm sorry. It was,
All right. But
asshole is over here camping. That's not cool.
But Gabe says yes, they are working on world PvP incentive systems are in the works. They will update us as soon as they have something, which means, yeah, that's cool, and we'll get to it when we fucking feel like it.
That's his answer.
Yeah. But
See, I've always liked the idea of being able to capture towns and stuff like that.
well, I could see.
I can understand, but I can understand now that we've had this little conversation that it would kind of suck if you got level 50 war party come through and capture a level 25, 30, whatever town and then never give it up. Now, if you do a reset like Warsaw did, then that would be different. But I mean, if you're gonna have world PvP, you're gonna have to have world PvP, and the only way you can have world PvP and have it right is if you have world PvP is only in the higher level ranks. The other, like only in this case, only 50s have world PvP. Obviously, 20s can't get there.
Yeah.
Level 50 can go back to the other planet, but that's PvE. That's the only way you could do it that way. The other way would be no levels.
All right. Well, let's transition a little bit into Hutball, and I'm gonna run off screen for a minute, and I'll be right back.
Okay, are we doing a break then for a second?
So start covering what you want in there, Hutball.
Oh, guess we're doing Hutball.
Okay, so all right, today we said we're going to be doing some PvP. So here you go. I wanted to talk about Hutball because first when I first started playing Hutball, I thought it was the worst fucking PvP ever. It was the worst match I ever fought. And mainly the reason why was because it's so different than any other PvP out there. Capture the flag, you've got the capture the base. I mean, that's it. This one here is completely different. Not only do you have an arena that kills you, but you're carrying an object across now on the forums on SWTOR, there's a great Hutball 101. And he kind of describes it. Now, he's an idiot because he says Hutball is played much like American football. And as Dat would tell you, and he came up with a great analogy, Dat, it's not American football, it's more like
Rugby.
Yeah. Because in American football, you throw the ball once, and the one dude's got to run as far as he can go before he dies, and then the ball starts there. That's not how this game is played.
Yeah.
The game, you have to continually pass the ball in order to survive. If you hold the ball, you're gonna die. Okay. So, anyways, a couple things here. I'm not gonna go through. Now that, like I said, this one here and the web page that which we talked about are two great places to learn how to play this game. This guy here says, anyway, so it's like how it plays the games. It breaks down what the different hazards are. You've got fire pit, acid pit, airlifts. If you've played Hutball, you know these things, what these things do. Fire pit, basically insta kill. The acid pit is a slow kill. I didn't know this, and I never really paid attention to it, I guess. But it also gives you a slower effect, so you're drudging through this acid. And then, of course, the airlifts, which throw you randomly wherever the hell you want. And I don't
it says randomly, and you and I have argued this before.
You can't control it.
You can fucking control it. You have to learn where each jet sends you.
Man, I've hit my jet boots, and I still don't land where I want to.
You have to hit. If you hit the air vents just right, you can propel yourself where you need to.
General direction. I know that if you hit it at one area, you can get in the general direction.
Right.
But if you just randomly run into the middle, you're pretty much going to land
wherever it shoots you.
Where you just came from is basically. Right. Now there are 3 helpers on Hutball. You've got speed boosts.
The speed boost power up is located in the center of the pit. On each side of the map, these power-ups allow your character to move very quickly for a short period of time. The power-up is best used to get out of the pit area. The heal and DPS buff. This power-up will increase the damage and heal amount a player deals for a short period of time. These are located near the main level ramp on both sides of the map.
Which, in effect, act as the stim buffs that you would get from your daily PvP, or if you bought them from the vendor.
Right, and then you have the heal buff, which is this power up is an instant heal. It is located in 4 spots on the map, just to the corner of the exit ramps of the pit. You can usually find these things. If you don't know where they're at, find the ball carrier that's near the pit that's getting his ass kicked. That's where he's heading.
Yeah.
Okay, so then this says, how do I win at Hutball? Well, this is simple. Okay, I'm gonna read through these really fast. Okay, so listen up. Phase 1, it says the opener. In the opener, the goal is to get to the ball.
Okay, so that's pretty easy. The thing drops, you run to the ball. First person to get the ball has control of the ball. If the other team has the ball, kill him.
Yeah.
Simple. Okay.
So to that avail, if you guys have a sorcerer in the group, or for the Republic side, if you have a sage in the group, or someone who went in that direction, basically that's the point. Once they've unlocked it, that it would be best for you to have them lead the group, and then someone hang back just behind them so they can immediately toss the ball back and get you a quick run.
Right.
There should the one thing I will dissuade people from is do not do the conga line to the fucking ball. That pisses me off.
No. It just doesn't work.
No.
I mean, it does and it doesn't. But this is okay. For all you WoW players, this is not Warsong Gulch. You do not run with the ball carrier healing him. Okay. In a group pack. Now it can work if you're going against a really shitty team. If you're easily scoring, then do it. But here's the problem with that. The object is to pass the ball.
Right.
If your buddy that you're trying to heal up dies, you don't get the ball. Okay? You don't keep the ball. The ball goes to the person that killed him.
Or the person nearest to the guy who died is what ends up happening.
It goes to the person that killed him. The person that gets the kill gets the ball.
Well,
that's how
I've gotten a lot of killing blows, and if those of you watching the video watch Rakat here, you'll actually see where the ball does actually go to the nearest person. It used to go to the person who killed him. It used to. There's been some subtle change, and what I've witnessed in most of my matches is not necessarily the guy who scores the killing blow, but it will pass it to the next nearest character. Because I've scored the blow, and I've been up on one of the catwalks, as those, like, once again, the viewers can see. You'll get a kill up there, and it doesn't drop down to the guy on the floor. It'll actually drop to the guy next to him on the catwalk. There are some inconsistencies that I noticed when I was going through these notes, so I'm not going to refute everything just to be a dick, but I'm going to point out some.
You are.
Well, maybe because I'm a dick, but somebody has to fill the void.
That's what a dick's for.
That's right. You got to fill the void. But as you were, Lanyard.
I forgot now. I'm lost.
Well, we were in mid game, so now you're moving towards
So you don't
end.
run into conga line. You don't run into group. You got to pass the ball. Here's the key to winning. Pass the ball.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you don't have it, if you don't have the hut ball is going to show up on your hotbar as soon as you get into the game. Okay. If you don't have it somewhere where you can do a quick action, either a button, move it to somewhere. If all your bars are full and you don't have any place to put it, and I gotta use my mouse click, unless you're a clicker, okay. But if you move something that you don't use. I don't use for Attune None. I don't use the levitate, the thing where I put people. It takes too long to cast. B, they're out of it in a heartbeat anyway. So I move that. And I just put the hut ball there. The other thing, okay, there's a couple things that says. Here's one that says, "Why do I lose at hut ball?"
Because you suck.
Yeah, it's basically, are you ignoring the ball handler? Okay, if you want to keep an eye on where the ball handler you got to keep an eye on where the ball is. To know what's going on. Does he need a quick buff? Does he need a quick heal? Are you in range of his toss? Are you out in front of him? You always want to know where the ball is. Okay. Let's see. And I got some really kind of cool. This one here has some cool tips. I know that yours probably has some too. This one here is a pro tip, and I was talking to Dad. I was talking to you about this one. Is another alternative pass is to pass the ball to an enemy who is about to die. This will cause the ball to come right back to you or your team's closest member to reset to a neutral ball if no member is nearby. Don't just don't throw the ball. This is where it's like football and rugby, I guess. Don't throw the ball into a group of the enemy.
Yeah.
Because if somebody's, if you're seeing somebody, you're about to die, and you see someone that's going to shortly die, and you can't get it, whatever. Let's just be smart. I mean, there's ways you can do it. Pass it to the guy that's gonna die. He's thinking he's got the ball. He dies. It resets. You can also do a spike the ball. Just throw it into an empty zone. As long as you know that there's somebody back there that can get the ball from your own team. You're dying, but at least when you die, you don't give it to the person that killed you. Never give the ball to the person that killed you. Here's a couple of ways that you can lose. Predictable paths. The only way to win a hut ball, the only way to win at a hut ball is to change the path that your team takes to a score. If you take the same path more than once, the chances are the enemy will adapt and figure it out. Untimely CCs. Nothing worse than a score from an enemy who is CCing you. Okay, if you see the guy running in and he's got a full resolve bar, you can't CC him. Okay, so he's not going to cause any. Ball hogs. You'll lose the ball. If you think you can pick up the ball in the middle and run all the way to the end, either you're on and I have done it, and I think you've done it too, but you're on a really shitty team.
Yeah.
You're going against a really shitty team.
Yeah.
Not passing the ball is you got to pass the ball and keep an eye on the ball handler. There's a couple different tricks that this guy comes up with that are pretty handy. I'm not going to go over them. I'm going to let Dat speak on this because I've been drinking coffee, so now I got to take a break.
Well, I mean, as far as what you can do to help, there's the ball pit leap. This is geared towards juggernauts and to their corresponding Republic character. Basically, if you have the ball and someone's stupid enough to stand at the very edge of the pit to try to attack you, then you use it as a leap towards that person. For higher end characters, nearing 50, if you have a healing sorcerer or a healing sage, you could use a pull technique, which is basically someone runs through the pit, they get to the very, very edge, and you're able to target them. You can pull them up out of the pit and towards the actual goal line, which is, in some cases overpowered, other cases not so much. Once again, remember, guys, when you're playing your class has certain advantages that other characters don't. There are things where there's like the scaffolding gap here. He says the most direct route to the goal from the ball spawn is first up the ramp from the upper scaffolding, then transfer to the ramp, aka jumping down to the lower scaffolding, and then running across the fire pits, assuming they're down, and boom, you're into the pit. There, you can get a quick grab. Once again, this is a situation where you're using the speed boost that the sorcerer and the sages, the consulars have, or the inquisitors and the consulars have, to immediately bubble and then jump across the acid pits to get to the ball quickly without taking a ton of damage. At that point, you either CC your next guy or pass the ball back to someone who's in a better position. Both of these, all of these are good techniques, and they're ways to help. one thing with this, and the reason we use the idea of rugby as opposed to football, in football, you literally pass the ball and one guy takes it all the way in. And at that point, you're hoping you have healers. The idea of rugby is it's a nonstop passing game. In rugby, you start off in the huddle, you're all around the ball, you pass it off to one guy, then you continually pass. In the best case scenario, you want to have what's referred to as a chain. You want to have someone just ahead of the next hazard, someone just ahead of the next drop, and that's where the true technique comes in. And that's what you want to see. You want to see people who are constantly running forward instead of the bane of my existence in any fucking hutball.
You had the guy running around in a circle.
Well, I've had 3 instances this week that caused losses. One, there was a guy who thought he was king shit and would run from point A to point B without dying, which immediately ended up with his death. It is good to run in a pack in hutball because at that point you have an entire group. It makes it harder for the person who is carrying the ball to be targeted, which is very helpful. But in the event that you can't, you want to be able to get the ball off to the next guy fast as possible.
Well, the downside about running in the group too is if you get a wipe, someone
everybody's fucked and sitting behind the line. Right.
Let's say somebody throws one of those AOE stuns on the fire pit.
Yeah.
They just wiped out the entire team. Now
they've got a good 30 seconds to get to the other end. Yeah.
And those fucking cooldowns, those penalty boxes, ridiculous. What is it? 45.
I really think it's probably 10 to 20 seconds, but when you're in the heat of the battle, I think it definitely gets a little aggravating. It says here, pit recovery. Often you will find yourself on the scaffolding and under attack from multiple sides. If you are getting very low health and it is clear you cannot pass the ball or score for that matter, the best bet is to jump into the pit. If you die, this will delay the enemy from being able to carry the ball out of your pit and all the way to the other side of the map. Now, suicide does work. I would rather what I refer to downing the ball, spike the damn ball and get the hell out of Dodge. If you're going to die, no sense in giving it to the other guys. Make them work to the middle.
Especially if you're right. The only time the pit death would work is if you picked up the ball on your side of the thing.
And that's assuming at that point that you're on your side and there's no one to cap the ball at that point.
Because if you're in their pit, and you die, you say, "Oh, I'm just going to die because I'm in their pit, and it's going to take them a while to get out of their pit." They pick up the ball, they pass it to the next guy that comes out of their dead zone, out of their penalty box, or they force leap, or someone pulls them out of the pit and score. You're giving the ball. It's like giving them the ball on their 20-yard line.
Right.
Don't do that. Spiking the ball would be better because now you're putting it back at 50.
At the middle, and it gives your team a chance to get back and cap it. One of the things, of course, and I see now why he used football, is the reverse. In a reverse, you would have a quarterback who lobs it to a wide receiver. That wide receiver then sends it to another guy. Yeah. This, once again, is just the idea of remember to pass the fucking ball.
Oh, dude, see, that was... Did you guys just see what she did on the PvP video? That's one of the things that they mentioned to do. You run across the top, and a lot of people know this. And if you play that ball, a lot of people know this, which is funny because a lot of the enemy never seems to catch on. You run across the top, and just before you get to the fire, you drop down.
Yeah.
If the fire is on in front of you, you drop down because that fire is on. They're not timed to something. So that you just...
I did see one. I did see one thing which I will refer to. God bless me, and do not take this as a slight to the fact that I like rap music because I hate this song. But there was one move I saw in a recent hutball which I will refer to as the Superman, because they were on the top scaffolding and the person speed boosted to jump over the pit and over the fire pit as it launched. And what happened was the person, because of speed boost, got just enough clearance to cover and hit the next ramp, and they were straight across, and it pissed me off. But,
you gotta land on that thing.
But
Pretty close.
you know, under tips and tricks, of course, they've got a lot of things like positioning. That being that, you know, characters that can fall or jump then to the next character, you know, you utilize that.
Right.
A lot of it does come down to player class. If you're a healer, you want to use whatever quick heals and instant heals you can as opposed to a cast, because while a cast will be helpful, 9 times out of 10 under extreme pressure, a character will die long before the heal ever gets off, and it's frustrating as hell. If you get the stems, do not dispose of them. Keep them in your inventory. I've had up to 40
got like
or 50.
36. I just keep pounding them.
Yeah.
And I keep getting.
And remember, if you don't have stems, med packs.
Med packs.
Yeah, you can use expertise stem packs to increase the amount of damage or healing you're doing in a match. Then, of course, there's also the option, if you choose to use med packs to keep your health up, just like you would a health stem. All of these are very important. I can't stress enough how important it is to know the class that you're playing. If you don't know your class well enough that you know what stuns, I know that you can get in at level 10 and start PvPing, but keep in mind...
You don't have that much to learn.
Right, but
at
keep
level
in
10,
mind...
you've only got a couple things.
But keep in mind what you have at your disposal. You may not have a bunch of stuns, you may not have a bunch of speed boosts, but you need to keep those in mind. You know, keep in mind the idea that if you're healing, you want to use quick heals if you are a healer. If you're not a healer, you want to use whatever damage effect you can and focus predominantly in hut ball at the very least on the person carrying the ball. And if you're confused by this, it's normally the asshole with the gigantic spike of light.
Right. It's either gold or purple.
Yeah. And if
it's not gold or purple, it's blue, and that means it's in the center.
But it's very much about the idea of focusing down a single target. To those of you idiots who continually fight on the sidelines, nowhere in the path of the ball, do me a favor, uninstall the game because you're morons.
Yeah, you know,
I understand the idea of getting a kill for getting a kill's purpose. I understand that there are objective points, and getting a one-on-one kill is cool for objective points. Getting the quick kill is awesome for objective points. But do keep in mind that while you're down there fighting a single guy who's not in the path of the score, or for that matter, preventing the score, you've just fucked your team. Congratulations. Yep. If your focus is not the guy directly in front of you with the ball, the guy that's directly in front of him that is on his way to the goal line to wait for the next pass, that is your predominant target. If there's more than one of you there, stun the guy who's got the ball, kill the guy who's waiting for the ball.
Mark your healers.
Yeah, and mark any healers that come up in the match. In a lot of cases, you'll see a power tech or a juggernaut or a sentinel who will receive the ball and then be followed by a healer. If you bury that healer, the sentinel will not last as long as you think. You know, as far as those of you who are trying to figure out how to get more points because you can't seem to get them, if you have a shielding ability, remember to keep that up. Specifically on either the person who's in mid camping for the next ball spawn, or if you are a diligent enough person that you can keep your eyes up on the person who has the ball, toss your shielding on them to help them get along a little bit longer. Very important things there. You know, there's been arguments as far as exploits, and this once again is a newer game. Exploits are going to be addressed as they come up. I found one this last week, and I want to bring it up. I don't know exactly how it happened. I believe I was Perpagellum when it happened, but one of the players actually fell into a section of the walls. A sniper was able to attack me, yet I was unable to attack him, and I could see his gun sticking out of the walls on the sides.
He was loving that.
Yeah, I'm sure he was.
That shit.
But there are negative issues as well with the bugs in some of the PvP matches. There have been issues where I've gotten knocked back and then stuck to the side, and at that point I couldn't move, no one could kill me, and I basically had to restart the game to get it to
You know, that's one thing I've noticed. This game, I get stuck in this game more than I've gotten stuck in any other game. And I'm not talking, and I'm an explorer. Okay, on every game I've ever been, I explore, and I get stuck more here on just random
piles of rock or a basket or a tree. I don't know what the deal is, but I get stuck in here.
But there are some things that need to be kept in mind. Those of you who think that I'm going to stealth behind the line, remember that you have to pop out of stealth for me to throw you the ball, stupid. I've had a lot of situations where someone with the ball will use one of their instant fades, which basically makes them stealth again. Guess what? You just lost the ball. Congratulations.
Yeah, you can't catch the ball if you can't see your hands.
Yeah, if you're stealth, one, you'll drop the ball if you use an instant stealth. For those of you who play operatives or scoundrels who can drop into a quick stealth, you've just reset the ball. That is only good for your team if they are waiting for you to reset the ball. And if you're not in Ventrilo or Mumble or any other voice over IP system, you've done nothing but saved your own hide for a couple of minutes, and that does nothing for the goal. Another great thing is to remember that if you are camping behind a line, regardless of stealth, if you want to receive the ball, remember you'll have to drop out of stealth. Yes, we can see your shadow over there, but unless we're paying attention, I can't see you, and you can't catch it either damn way, which is disappointing. The only thing that Lanyard and I have witnessed tandem was a setback, which we can't quite explain in Hutball, where Lanyard was killed, the enemy got the ball, we killed the enemy, and somehow we immediately scored thereafter, and then the ball reset, but was only sent back to the nearest character on our team, and he rescored. So remember...
That was a weird bug. I think that was just... That was a weird server glitch, and it probably have to be like a 1 in a million chance that would even, or more that would even happen again. So I don't think that.
Well, given that I haven't seen it since,
as soon as I scored, it should have reset and gone to the thing, but I died as I crossed the line, which gave it to the person that was almost dead that was killing me. Then they died and gave it to you or whoever that was already on the other side of the line. So it was really a unique situation.
But I mean, keep in mind
a unique situation to our advantage.
On that particular game, had we not been there, then we'd have been fucked. The other link, of course, has a simplistic version of the guide that we have that comes directly from the forums on R2DB's site, and it's once again the same thing. Remember, guys, you have to pass the damn ball. And take advantage when you can of your specific class abilities. Operatives, if you're going to camp behind the line, remember to say somewhere where we can see you. Or for that matter, guys, if you're intelligent enough, mark the guy who's going to be camping behind the line.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Because if you're marking him, it makes him an easier target for us to see and know the other guys can't see him or the mark we've put on him. You're always wanting to mark your healers. And for the better portion, watch your cooldowns. If your cooldown for your stun breaker is on cooldown, then keep your camera as wide out as you can, or as far as you can deal with it, so that you can see the next possible guy for the pass. We'll cover Novara Coast. We'll cover Void Star. We'll even cover Alderaan War at some point in separate episodes, because there's so much we can give you and so much we can tell you about the games, and so much you might just be missing that you haven't thought of before, whether it's it's a class ability or otherwise, that you're not necessarily taking advantage of. Whether it's intercede to get to someone who's dying fast as a Juggernaut or a Sentinel, so that you can get there and they can pass you the ball quickly, so that you can take advantage of that. Or if it's just being able to jump towards a target as a tank. For those of you who are power attacks, you've already enjoyed the idea of pulling one of our sorry asses into either a fire or an acid pit, and fuck you, Deva, fuck you. But keep an eye on your cooldowns, guys. Right now, we don't have a massive CC watcher, so we're not able to see our cooldowns as large as we'd like to, or for that matter, a big broad screen deal. But that's Hutball. Pass the fucking ball. Don't be a greedy bitch. If you are a healer, stay on top of your ball carrier. Keep them up as best you can. And if you are able to, pull them towards you if you get across the line. If
Yeah.
a guy is running with you but is not able to heal you, do your best to get the ball off to him if you get stuck behind the fire or behind a hazard where you cannot reach them. The easiest technique at this point that I see predominantly used is the pit maneuver. One guy goes up through the scaffolding to get across the line. The next guy goes down to the pit and either as a juggernaut or sentinel leaps to the guy on the other side,
Or just passes it to him.
Right. The quick pass. The pass will save your ass 9 times out of 10, and it almost always guarantees a hit. With the exception of the fact that you've killed their entire team.
Right.
They suddenly get out of their hole at the same time.
And you're out dancing in front of them. Yeah.
But on the defensive note, the best way to defend against any of this stuff is just kind of know where they're going. Follow the light, man. Use the arena to your advantage. Make sure your CCs are on cooldown, especially as they're getting close to line. There's nothing worse than having your force leap or your force slam on cooldown and watching the guy just walk into your lane.
Yeah.
Can't knock it back. Use the pit to the advantage. Do as much damage. Mark your healers. Mark their healers as targets. And again, if they're running the same pattern, do something about it. Don't just stand there and gripe and moan. Do something.
Yeah. A lot of times you'll see a familiar pattern. They're always the other team, once they found what they consider to be a safe route, will continue to use that safe route regardless of the situation. And you can really use that to your advantage. One thing I wanted to make sure I hit because I forgot to hit it in our in our housekeeping section as kind of a somewhat of a closing note. Last week we talked about the Mean Machine who tossed us a 5-star. Well, recently we've had a gentleman by the name of Dave Yak. And he put us down as Beast Mode was the title of his review. Gave us 5 stars. He said he loves the podcast. I listen to other popular SWOTOR podcasts, and Sith Talk is my preferred podcast. Their content is entertaining, accurate. They prepare well for the podcast, and it shows. We've received rave reviews, of course, on iTunes, and I'll probably hit a few of those from the most recent episode on the next podcast if my web browser doesn't open up fast enough. But guys, it's due diligence when it comes to anything that you do with regard to getting down with Hutball or any PvP match. One of the things that I like to use personally, regardless of which match I'm in, is I consistently make sure to have my CC, watch from my Stunbreaker CCs, Stunbreaker CCs. And you can do that by going under your UI options and making sure to update it so that your UI option is then immediately set for numbers as opposed to letters or anything else. That will be huge for you in the overall. The other thing I do is I've got my screen out quite a bit, I'll have to admit, so that it's almost what some would refer to as an RTS view, and that's a big thing for me. I was able to pull up a couple of quick reviews here, and it says there's one here from I want to say Damp Kegel. I can't really make it out. Damp Camel. That's what it was, which I thought was a dirty name because it reminded me a lot of camel toe.
Wet toe.
He says, this is one of the few weekly podcasts that I want to listen to, mostly because it's serious, mature talk, which I'm not sure if that means we joke around, but it's not all poop and fart jokes, or the fact that we occasionally cuss, which is fine. Either way that goes, I'm happy to have his review. He says, with the occasional banter and good fun, sometimes that's very hard to find these days. So thank you and keep up the good work, Sith Talk. I like the fact that the con artist here says, I love you guys. I mirror most of your opinions and fear that it's the fear of Cross Realm. it ruined the WoW community, which was one of your concerns with LFG. And he says he really hopes that they hurry with the looking for group patch, because he's bored of WoW and he wants to play SWTOR. And he says, I currently am not, though, because he's bored with questing. So one of the other people that once again echoes the idea that they want to get into a few good matches and have the ability for looking for group. Guys, we always appreciate your comments on our podcast. Good or bad, retarded or otherwise. That even goes, and I'll do this just because it's fun. There's the folks. There's Own Incognito and Epic Facepalm, who went first, second, and then of course we had a third, to which was beleaguered by one of our fans because they wanted to know if we really put up a podcast just so these retards could first, second, and third the comments.
That's the only reason we do this. That's the only. I mean, isn't that why we're doing this? Just so we can get first, second.
But remember, guys, it's unfortunately the side effect of YouTube that someone first, seconds, or thirds, and some of these guys, everyone's a fan. If you pull up our podcast or you pull up our video feed, it's still showing the love, and I respect that nonetheless. Could you please go ahead and say first? So how was how was your day?
Yeah, right. Put something else there.
Just a little addendum to it would be nice.
I love the game. First, love you guys.
Right.
First, you guys suck. Whatever.
Just a little extra would be nice. Thank you.
Towards the video, or do you guys just go through and find out? Maybe that's what they do. Maybe they just go to to videos that just got put in, and then they throw first in. They don't even watch the video. They just. No, I don't believe that. I believe that they really enjoyed the show.
Yeah, I like to think that everyone actually watches the show and enjoys it for what it is. Whether they watch it on the YouTube feed, or they check us out on Podomatic, or they subscribe to us so they automatically get that instant love. Whatever your mode of entertainment, thank you, and please continue to support us. I do want to make sure we throw out audibletrials.com/Sith Talk. Our gracious sponsor, where if you sign up at any point in the month, you get a free 30 days of Audible for your audiobook enjoyment. They've got some great gaming series out there, whether you pick up the Diablo 3 series of audiobooks that are available, or you do like I have and pick up the SWTOR series with the Book of Revan. Each month for a meager sum of $15. Not only are you helping to support the podcast, but you're also able to get a free book every time. And if you're an audiophile and you really want to go crazy, you can always upgrade or pay for additional books. Remember that the books they offer on there are up to 50% off of the list price for them. Still a better value than going on iTunes. Still a better value than hitting Amazon, unless your grandmother gave you a fucking gift card. In which case, God bless Grandma.
I think I got all my books for like $9. Well,
Yeah.
$9.99, and I downloaded them all to my phone.
Yeah.
Not this current phone. I had to download them back to the computer. But yeah, I mean, and then that's the great thing is I had my old phone, and I don't have the Audible app no more. And I was like, crap, I paid for all these books. It sucks. But I went to the Audible site, pulled up my account, and said, hey, do I have my library? And boom, 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 boom. There they all are, and all I had to do was download them back to my computer.
Yeah.
No charge.
And like I said, that was a preconceived notion I had about Audible, was I thought it was a rental service, and it's not.
Yep.
Once you buy them, whether
It's
it's
yours.
through the goofy little credit that they have on your account for renewing each month, or it's because you purchased them for $22 or $15 or whatever it is, it's yours forever. It doesn't matter. And they keep it in a central file. It's not like going to Amazon and surfing through all your purchases to find the one, CD you downloaded one time 100 years ago. Audible keeps that in their manager forever. Once you have established your account, they immediately get it back to you. It's a fantastic service. I enjoy it. Lanyard has it. Even our buddy White Sword Kevin has it. And it once again, it's a great way to help us keep bringing you guys content. If anything else, helping us pay for any contest items we give away, or in the future,
That's right, 'cause
T-shirts, bumper stickers, or hats, which we've been looking into all of the above.
Because if we don't start making some money, you guys are gonna end up getting like I don't know, free Velvet Elvis or something silly like that. I got a bunch of these. I'll mail you one of
I've got
these.
some empty beer bottles. This one is a harp
yeah.
lager. You can have an empty beer bottle given to you by
Hey.
Sith Talk, which is fucking
you
retarded.
Can even sign it.
Oh, yeah,
You can
I've got
sign
some
it
markers.
Datacore.
But once again, guys, thank you for joining us here on Sith Talk. And as I always say, we'll see you in the pit. Thank you again for joining us here on Sith Talk. Lanyard and Datacar look forward to talking with you next week. Remember to follow us on Twitter at Sith Talk, or stop by our Facebook page at facebook.com/Sith Talk. And of course, our Gmail is sithtalk@gmail.com. This music brought to you by freeplay.com. And remember, peace is a lie. There is only passion. Through passion I gain strength. Through strength I gain power. Through power I gain victory. Through victory my chains are broken. The Force shall free me.